Welcome to the course, IS-417, where we'll talk about digitalization in the public sector, which is a very broad topic, obviously. So we need to make some selections of material and topics. But I do think we have put up a very nice course schedule for you, so you will get a very good introduction to digitalization in the public sector, and also an opportunity to go deeper into some of the topics. So we are two people here in the course. That's me and Jens. We will present ourselves a bit later. But I was thinking we could start with this slide just straight away. So the definition of a success is the accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. So do you think that digitalization in the public sector has been a success? We go straight to business here before we present. So you can choose the chat if you like, or you can just grab the microphone. Since we have exchange students here, I would assume that someone has perhaps another perspective than the Norwegian one, but most of you are Norwegians. Do you think the public sector in Norway is successfully digitalized? Not in Germany. One of the students is coming, yeah. Would you like to elaborate?
So I don't know if Christian wants to elaborate, but I'm from Germany as well, so I would just add a few things to that.
Yeah.
Because in Germany there's practically nothing really digital from the public sector. So almost everything you need to just go physically to the building where the institution is, or you have to send them contracts that you sign via fax. So yeah, and for me, coming to Norway, I don't have that much interaction with the public sector, but at least in the private sector. So sites like Hubel and so on, where I found my accommodation, there are many things that work better digital than in Germany, at least.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I think someone else tried to say something, but...
Yes, I tried to say something. Hello, my name is Ida Hildvedt. And I think the Norwegian sector is great on digitalization, but if it's a success, it's a different thing. Because some of services are a success, but there are other things to think about, like people that's not digital, they fall out of the system.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ida. So that was the Norwegian perspective, and as there's a comment in the chat also. Depends on what success is defined as. If it is getting better all the time, however, it is a slow process, and there's a lot to be done still. Yeah, I agree. I agree to that. I guess we will never stop digitalizing. So it's a process going on. So that will definitely depend on what success is. Okay. Someone else who has a comment I really want to share? Or? Yeah.
Hi, so I'd like to start something.
Yeah.
I'm from Nepal. So basically we've started from scratch where we used to, manually record things and then go through ledgers and all. So I think that Nepal right now, it's a start of something, because digitization has reached a certain point where we can even, general citizens can also use platforms to communicate with the state, with the authority. But then at the same time, I think it still lacks a lot. It's a start of something, but then a lot of improvements are needed. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Nice. I think I guess there are many differences in the world, both in Europe, as we heard from Germany, and here, and other places in the world. So it's definitely differences, and it's differences between perhaps agencies and types of public services and so on. So okay, thank you for this just small introduction to digitalization. Let's go into the a bit more formal part of the course. So this is me. My name is Peter Andre Bush, as you can see here, and I'm one of the lecturers in the course. I'm here because, of course, I would like to discuss digitalization in the public sector with you. And I think this is going to be a really interesting course. There are lots of things in the public sector which are really interesting to discuss and dig into, and it's a special context, so I think this is going to be fun. So if you have any questions about the course, you can drop me questions in Canvas, or you can use email, or you can also drop by my office. Some of you have a really short distance to my office. Who am I? I'm married, have 3 children, and in terms of my academic career, I did my PhD on e-government, actually. So it's about digitalization in the public sector, and more specifically, I looked at whether technology could actually influence decision making in the public sector, or in among bureaucrats. Because we have now artificial intelligence, we have decision support systems and so on. So I thought that was an interesting part. And what I found is that it was not very much of an influence in terms of services where one typically has used a lot of judgment, for example, in the court or that types of services. Not very much influence, but in terms of routine tasks, there's a lot of influence. So, and another thing I'm very interested in terms of research is problematic technology use. I have done some research on problematic smartphone use and smartphone addiction. I do have a positive view, or I used to call myself a realist, a technology realist. I know that people are calling themselves technology positivists. I call myself a technology realist because I think, yes, there are definitely positive sides about technology. If not, we will not keep on digitalizing and discussing how we could improve things with technology. But I do also think that there are some negative sides about technology, which we should acknowledge. And one of those sides are our addiction to technology and overuse, actually. So those are my main research interests. You can see my office here. It's in the H building, first floor, and you can see my email address here. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I'm not running the course alone, so I'm doing this together with Jens here. And Jens, you can present himself.
Thank you, Peter. My name is Jens Nørrelve, and I work at the Norwegian Digital Agency, and I've been working with IT since early 90s, and I'll come back to that later on today and tell you a little bit my journey and what I've done the last years. I'm also 3 kids and married, living in Oslo, and 10 years ago, we weren't talking about digitization in public sector, then we talked e-government. So then I designed a master class with Professor Arne Krokan at the University of NTNU in Trondheim. And that was a lot of fun, and we learned a lot together with the students. So, and I haven't done that since, so I'm very much looking forward to meet you. And I'm very glad, and thanks to all of you that took the word right away, because this is going to be much more fun and interesting if we get a dialogue. Nobody have the full answer, so we need to discuss and debate it. So, and I'm very glad to that, and I enjoy being with students and learning. I also would like to talk about a little more later on how important digitalization is for public sector. If you can think about that, if you were to rate it from 1 to 10, how important is it? And I'll come back to that, because I think this is very, very interesting, but it's also very, very important for the whole society and how we're going to do. I also have to mention that when I said yes to be a part of this, they didn't tell me that it's going to be in English, and I'm a dyslexic, and that makes it a little hard for me, and I'm not that great in English, but we'll do the best we can together. Thank you.
Yes, I think you did very well, Jens. So it's very good. I wanted to mention that, so now he mentioned himself. So it was originally planned in Norwegian, but I think we will manage very well in English as well. Okay, great. So who are you then? Hopefully not. Oh, it's a 5 here, yeah. So I have made a Google document together with the presentations. So hopefully you will be able to see that now. Do you see it?
Yeah, everything okay?
Yeah, good. So this is the document, which is linked from this page here, the page for this presentation here and today. And there is an agenda here and preparations and then material. And in here, one of the preparations were to fill out and present yourself in this Google document. So this is the document which I am referring to here. So you can see here, many of you have already presented yourselves. I will not go through that, obviously, but you can have a look here if you want to see who your fellow comrades are, partners in crime. And I would also like to know if who the exchange students are. I'm sure that some of them might not be present here, but I think some of you are. So as we have already gotten some perspectives from Germany and other places. So the agenda for today is just going through the course objectives, talk about the workload and expectations, curriculum, and we have already presented who we are. And we'll also talk about allocation to the groups and group work to some extent. Okay, this is the learning environment. At the moment, the learning environment, as you know, is digital. We were hoping for some physical lectures, but as you probably are aware of, there is this pandemic going on, and unfortunately has influenced us in a great deal, also in the teaching. But let's see what happens. Hopefully we are able to meet physically at the campus, which I would very much appreciate and like. But we are digital so far, so let's see how long it will last. There are different ways of learning. So what Jens and I will try to do is to facilitate these different ways so that you are, at the end of the course, has learned as much as possible. Of course, you can sit and listen to us. You could read. We should try and practice a bit with this term paper project. You could write a bit, and we could also have some supervision. So let's see how this will end up for you. These are just a few of the of the goals that are set for you, things that you should be able to do after completing the course. So you should, for example, be able to understand how digitalization is affecting the public sector. Of course, not the full picture. None of us has the full picture, but at least understand the main issues. You should be able to see and develop a knowledge and understanding of how ICT can be used in specific relevant situations. That is very specific to your term paper project, so which I will present next Thursday. You get more information about it. And we will talk about democracy, how technology is influencing democracy and democratic processes, how we can have user-centric services, how services can be pushed to citizens instead of having to demand them, and so on. So there are many things that we will go through in the course. We have a course room in Canvas. Hopefully you are all in Canvas, able to log on there. And if not, you should be able to do that very soon, as soon as you have the logons here. I guess since you are on Zoom, you have the Zoom link, which is published in Canvas. So I guess you are all already enrolled there. We will have a lot of different activities in the course. We will obviously have lectures, some class activities, discussions, quite a lot of guest lectures. So we'll have some perspectives from people from various parts. Some are from the political science area domain, some researchers from there, talking about distinctions of the public sector. We will have other guest lecturers from working in the field, for example, the IT manager of the university and so on. So we'll have different perspectives from guest lecturers, which is hopefully completing more of the picture for us. Supervision, class presentations, and also some deliverables on the way. Thursdays are our main day for activities, and we will stick to the Thursday unless there are some good reasons for not doing so. But you have other courses, so yeah, Thursday will be our main day. And we have set apart the time from 10:15 to 1400 hours. That doesn't necessarily mean that we will use the full 4 hours. So please have a syllabus, a look at the syllabus in Canvas, so you can see the actual hours. So I can go back here, and then the syllabus, you will find it here on the left side. Snoop Dogg says you should read the syllabus, so then we got the encouragement to do so. And here's the syllabus, and we will keep this updated regularly, so please have a look at it also regularly. So you can see here this a link to the info page today. I will try to make these links every time, and you can see the topics and who is the lecturers. And we will try to make these preparations available as soon as possible, so you have time to prepare for the next time. Yes, and not all Thursdays will be used for lectures. So some of the Thursdays you have time to study on your own and work with the group work if you like to do so. Okay, you are evaluated also here. There's a portfolio assessment, which counts for 100% of the total grade. but they are split into two tasks. So one of them is the term project paper. That's 70% of the grade. That's a group work, so it's a group grade. And then there's a peer review, which is an individual assignment, which counts for 30% of the grade, and where you will assess another group's term project paper and give feedback to them. So, and the group work kickoff is on the next Thursday. So I will go into details about the term project then. So there's not too much this time. I said there's a comment here. I'm traveling to Kristiansand on the 20th. Will be a problem then because I cannot participate. We can talk about that later. I don't think it should be a problem at all. We will fix it somehow. Okay, so this is how you are evaluated. This is the term project, and you will work in groups or in teams with up to 5 team members, where you will apply design thinking, and the purpose is to find creative solutions for a problem or a challenge within e-government or digital government, as someone is calling it. And this could be a problem that is, or a challenge that you have identified yourself with your interaction with the public sector. So maybe something has frustrated you and this is something I would like to do. And more details about the term project will be provided next Thursday. So then we will give a thorough introduction to it. The peer review is, as I said, a written feedback to another group's work, including suggestions on how they can improve their project. So the peer review will be conducted sometime before the final delivery of the term project. So hopefully you can make use of these comments so you can learn, and also those who are commenting on others' work are also learning from what they have done. So it's hopefully a good process. There are also some weekly assignments. I will come back to them also next Thursday, but there are weekly assignments tied to a topic of a session. Doesn't mean that every group is doing an assignment every week, but some of the groups will be presenting or conducting a weekly assignment and present it in class every week. So it's related to the topic for the last session. So when we are here, I always ask students what their expectations are. I mean, we are kind of good of communicating our expectations, but it's very nice to hear what your expectations are. So some of you who have some expectations about what this course should provide you, or what you should learn. You could have either expectations for us or for yourself, for that matter. But it would be nice for Jens and me to hear what you expect from us. So feel free to raise your voice or use the chat.
While they are thinking, Peter, I could comment on that. And the thing I look forward to the most is that you, with your theoretical background and everything that to do with the theoretical way of working with it, combined with my experience, is what I'm hoping that we can do together, and that I can come with some concrete examples and so, and base that on your the documentation and from the academic sector.
That's good, Jens. So I have asked this question a lot about the expectations of the students, and Many times you are completely silent. Doesn't mean that you don't have any expectations, because if you don't, you should have. You should think about and reflect about what you would like to achieve in the course. So this is your chance to make a pre-order for something. But if you have any expectations along the way, you just let us know. We are able to adapt at least to some point. So please let us know. We do have some expectations to you. First, information is provided in the Canvas room. So please check that regularly. That's important. Also check your email. If you have some alerts going to the email instead about announcements which are made in the Canvas room. So, and we also do update the syllabus regularly. We do update these pages for each session also regularly. So please do check them regularly, so you are up to date with the information that's in there. If there is something that is really important, I will try to make an announcement about it, so you can see it. But I will not make an announcement about every change that is made, for example, to the syllabus and stuff. That's going to be too much. But everything that is important, I will try to make an announcement about. Also, when we have new reading material available for a session, I will try to announce that, so you are aware of that. Yes, and then lectures. I would like to see that you have prepared attendance. So please check out the preparations. It's easier to discuss when we have read the material beforehand. And for the group work, yeah, creativity, effort, and some work founded in academic sources as well. Since we are a university, we are providing you with both scientific knowledge and practical knowledge, which is a good match here, since Jens has a lot of practical experience with digitalization in the public sector. And before I move on, there was some comment on expectations, which you can bring on. I hope to get definitions on the topics and an overview of the most important topics in digitalization of public sector. Yeah, hopefully we will be able to fulfill that. Of course, the selection of topics might be a bit practical also, because Jens and I have our own experiences, and depending on who we are bringing in as guest lecturers, they have their own experiences and expertise. But I do think there's a broad selection of topics here, which should cover a lot of the issues that are relevant to e-government. Okay, great. Time is flying. The curriculum will be made available in Canvas. There is no book or any fixed material beforehand, so we will try and announce it whenever it's available. And we may put in some supplementary readings. We will definitely mark them as supplementary so you are sure that these are supplementary. So and those are meant for you who are particularly interested in a topic, or if you are doing your term paper project on some topic, then you can also, of course, make use of the supplementary readings if you like. Yes. Yeah, we will update the material along the way. Okay, groups, approximately 5 group members would be nice. And you can form the groups yourself. So I think that's the best way to do it. And I think the groups should preferably include students from different educational backgrounds and countries. So there are students here from political science and from the Master in Information Systems. A mix would be nice, and it's also nice with bringing in students who are exchange students. So they can get to know the people here, and you get to know people from outside Norway. Yes. Yeah, so some references here. Are there any questions so far? No? So then we will have a short break. Let's have a break until 11 o'clock, and then we start again.
Thank you. And I like to look at this as a journey, and we are all on a journey when we are digitalizing, both as a personal journey and in the company we work for and in the public sector in each country. And the maturity differ, and it's kind of, you can look at you're on different levels, and you need to understand more, test it out, and then apply more solutions and keep advancing on a maturity level on all these aspects. And that's why it's kind of hard to settle on what to discuss and what's your favorite subject and so on, because it depends a lot on what maturity level you are on, your agency are on, or your country are on. And when for me and myself, I thought I would like to tell about my journey and then try to connect that up with the different thing I've experienced on that journey. And I started out actually as in charge of 10 people working in Trygdekontoret, NAV, Social Security, and I worked there for a couple of years. And then I started in the ministries, and I was in the early 90s. I worked in different ministry, but the common theme that was always the ministry that was responsible for IT in there. And so in the late 90s and the year 2000, I started in telecompany, Telenor, which is the main telecom company in Norway, and actually become a pretty decent size company worldwide. And I was there for 7 years, where 3 of them I was in charge of the strategy for Telenor IT. And then I was in the consultant area for a company for 2 years before I started in the agency. And that was 12 years ago, I think. And with that, we built, I was one of the 4 people that started that. And now we are like 300 and something. And at the time, we didn't have that agency, but we needed someone that could try to help all the other agencies, and not at least try to get them to cooperate. And I'll come back to that, because on that journey in the early days, everybody was thinking about themselves. So you have these different levels in the public sector. You have state, and then you have fylkeskommune, and then you have also municipalities, kommuner. And all these the entities was working by themselves. And that seemed very smart at the time, that everybody should figure out how to give services. But that ended up with like 400 municipalities buying 100 IT systems. And you have fylkeskommuner on the next level, 20 of them buying a lot of hundreds of IT systems. And in the state, the same. So we ended up with thousands of IT systems. And that seemed smart 10 years ago. It doesn't seem smart today. I'll come back to that. But we look at the different themes and what's on the maturity journey. From my part, it started in the 90s, and at that time it seemed like a good discussion to discuss should we have email or not in public sector. And actually, I was down with the people that started the project to beginning to use email in public sector. And at that time, first, it was very exciting to see that you could send a message from one room to another. You could go in and see send the answer and go back in the other room. And we thought that was great. And then we start using this, and part of my job was to keeping track of this and go back to the minister and tell him, and I could tell that we had 5,000 emails in all the ministries, and 50,000 and 5 million, and at 50 million I stopped counting. And I was very pleased that we were introducing emails, and everybody thought this was great until one day I woke up and the biggest newspaper in Norway, Aftenposten, had the picture of 9 ministries on the front page. And there was a black mark on all the eyes. And it was at the point they want to make that was until now, we had, you had to, all the mail you sent, you have to put them in the records. And all the records was the newspaper could go and see. So openness and transparency was very important, and that's especially focused in the Scandinavian countries. And then we were starting to discuss when you send mails, it doesn't show up in the archives. So there was a lot of fuss about that, and I remember very well that it ended up with a big meeting. I was sitting on the podium because I was one of the guys that was promoting this. And then it started with a lot of ICAR people and a lot of lawyers, and it was 200 people, very, very angry. And they were telling us, you can't do this. It's illegal to use email in public sector. And I'm telling you that because at that time, that seemed like a very smart discussion. But today, for you guys, it probably doesn't seem very smart. But so what would that compare to today? And I was start thinking about when you are today we are starting to introduce chatbot in public sector. We are artificial intelligence. We are starting roboting, and being a part of public sector services. Of course, they can do wonderful things, but then we will have the same discussion today. Is that legal or not? And if you do, what do you need to take care of? So that is an example to see it, the thing you discussed in the context of what maturity level you are on. And that is something that it's also part of the mindset. You can't leapfrog. You can do that on technology, then you can skip a couple of things and go direct to something modern. But in the mindset, you need to get the public sector with you, and they need to be on this journey together. And what's a bigger change I've been through in these 25 years? I think the biggest change is that going from all the different entities doing this by themselves, and it's about 1,000 of them, to try to do how can we share data and do that together. And why am I emphasizing that so strongly? Yeah, that's because a lot of the different entities in Norway in public sector, they have become so mature that they do the most thing they can in its silo. But still, we have people walking from one silo to the next, or one office to the next. So going from that, doing it in one sector, to doing it the smart way with a user-centric perspective, That's the biggest change we're standing or working with right now. I have a question for you guys. When you think about the maturity destiny that we're working on, who's coming the longest? What's the best case or best agencies would you think of with the best services? It's hard from you guys from abroad, but from the Norwegian students, which one is the best top in the class in the agencies or the different services that you know about?
A couple of comments in the chat.
Yeah, I see a couple here. It's Skatteetaten from Ida. Ida, can you comment? And what is it you like about Skatteetaten?
That's the tax administration in English.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe this was before my time, before I became of age of working. But before, they had to fill out their forms on paper, and they had to know all the rules and where they can get their taxes refunded and so on. And this was my mom told me she used several days doing this, so it was a big job. But now the tax agency has pre-filled the form digital, and you can just check if it's correct. And I think it's much easier now, but I'm not the best to say.
No, but you're quite right, and that was the case I was looking for. And me and myself, I'm so old that I was sitting actually the last night before this, the last day to do this and filling in this. But you also had to go in your car and drive down and stand in the queue to put it in the envelope and to send it to them, because you were doing this. You were spending the weekend doing this, and you also have to travel and deliver it and so on. So it's good for public sector, but it's also good in the perspective for thinking about make the world green. What do we call that?
Environment.
Environment, yeah, thank you. So it's good for environment as well. And of course, no, when we don't have to send everything into the tax office, of course, they don't need that much people. So it's a win-win-win situation. I see also you mentioned also Lånekassa.
Yes.
What's your experience from there? Why do you point to them?
Well, that's almost the same. Before you had to fill out the form and send it in or give it to a person that was working at your school from Lånekassen. And now you don't see them anymore. They're just online, and you can apply there and get your answers and pay down your mortgage and everything online. So I think that's really good.
Yeah.
I remember when I started studying, I had to fill in this form and submit it by mail, and then it took several weeks before students got any money for. So I think it was like 6 or 7 weeks. Then you got the money. So you're way into your studies before you got money from Lånekassen before. So it's a huge change in terms of digitalization. I just wanted to comment on tax administration, because I did my PhD actually interviewing people in the tax administration, and they do have a lot of sophisticated systems there. So they, for example, before they could sit in a small municipality and they were assessing their neighbor and counting sheep and that kind of stuff, and they don't do that anymore. And now, for example, one person here in the south can just assess a part of the tax report from a citizen up north, for example, and the other way around. And it's also really good in terms of eliminating possibilities for bias and corruption and that kind of stuff. And they also have behind the scenes like business intelligence systems that are picking out people for controls and companies and that kind of stuff. So based on trends on Interpol and things that are going on in society. So it's really sophisticated, actually.
Yeah, good point. And you could also ask, how is this possible? What are they doing? How is it? Because I myself, haven't done anything with my taxation the last 3 or 4 years. They do it totally automatically. We don't do anything. And how can that be? And the answer is they are really, really good at sharing data. So they are finding, and of course, public sector knows quite a bit about where you live, how much money. They know about the Lånekassa, knows about what grades you got, they know what year you're in, and so. So if public sector are good at collecting this and sharing this data, that's what makes this possible. So sharing data, but for you doing that, you need to address like the legal issues, the semantic issues, and so on and so on. So it's quite a lot complexity to be able to do this. But a lot of the different entities in Norway have come to that point that they can do it. So they start looking at each other and asking, how can we help you other? And then share data between them. So that's one of the strengths in the Norwegian system, that we have a good culture for helping each other and sharing data. But of course, that has to be within the legal limits. Any other comments or reflections, other examples that you would like to comment on? One example that I like myself is to tell about is when a lot of us had, or in Norway, the system is that you have, when you have to go to the doctor a lot, then after you pass the limit, I don't know what it is, 3,000 kroner or whatever, then the rest is for free. And that's what goes for the whole family. And some years ago, we all had these forms that we can have on a wallet, and you could, every time you went to the doctor or whatever, they would make a note on it, and when you get to a certain amount, the rest was free for the medical service in Norway. And then somebody asked, why do we do this with paper? Couldn't we have them all the information in the system anyway, so could we not collect it? And some smart people figured out, yeah, let's do that. And we did. You know what happened? We got that fixed, but the problem was a new problem was that it costed public sector a lot, more than we thought, because there was a lot of people like me that never were able to take care of these papers, and they lost it and they didn't get it. And a lot of real poor people, they couldn't, maybe because they had other problems like drinking or were out of housing or whatever, so they weren't able to take care of this paper and get this signed. And of course, they were the people that lost the most there. But because no, they got the right amount, what they were in right to, that costed public sector a lot of money. But still, everybody agreed it was a good thing, it was efficient, and even if it cost more, it helped those people that would needed it the most. So that's an example I like. But sometimes it's other consequences than we can see when we start a bit of projects. If I stop there, Peter, we were talking about showing a video or two. Could this be a good time to do that, or what do you think?
We could try that. Let me see if I can.
Later on, I will come back and talk about the strategy of digitalizing public sector in Norway. It's from my point of view, a very good strategy that a lot of people are working on now. And that strategy has some focus areas. And we also have some videos that I think it's like 6 minutes or whatever that's could illustrate what we are talking about. Unfortunately, it's on Norwegian, but I think we could to take 6 minutes for that, even if it's Norwegian, and discuss it in English afterward, if that would be okay with you guys.
Yes, which one would you like to see first?
I think I would like to start with the one with sammenhengende tjenester.
Yes.
That's just what I've been talking about, that we need to connect the different services and sharing data.
Yeah.
And that film illustrates that in a good way.
Yes, we tested this yesterday, and hopefully the sound is fine here.
Livet handler om følelser, liv og død. Det handler også om hvordan du og jeg som borgere fungerer i hverdagen og samfunnet vi er en del av. Om ulike situasjoner vi møter gjennom livet, enten det er planlagt eller utfordringer som er helt uventet, og som vi som mennesker prøver å løse på beste måte. Ingen av livet våre er like. Kanskje du nettopp har mistet det som var ditt mest dyrebare. Kanskje du nettopp har kommet til Norge for å starte et nytt liv. Ingen livssituasjoner er like, men i løpet av livet vil vi alle få behov for tjenester fra det offentlige. Digitaliseringsstrategien «En digital offentlig sektor» peker derfor ut 7 bestemte livshendinger, der målet er at du som bruker offentlige tjenester skal oppleve at de er sammenhengende og helhetlige. Det betyr at i møte med det offentlige er det aller viktigste at du som innbygger får informasjon du trenger, får gjort det du skal og løst behovet ditt, uavhengig av hva for offentlige kontor, etater eller virksomheter som hjelper deg. Det betyr at du skal oppleve tjenestene fra det offentlige som brukervennlige og sammenhengende, og at det gjør hverdagen enklere for deg, for andre innbyggere og for næringslivet og organisasjonslivet. Og for oss i det offentlige betyr det at forvaltningen må samarbeide bedre på tvers av nivå og sektorgrenser. Det betyr at det offentlige ikke skal la seg stoppe av tradisjonell silotenking, tungvint organisering, tekniske utfordringer eller juridiske hindre. Møter vi på slike utfordringer når vi skal lage gode innbyggerrettede tjenester, skal vi sørge for å løse disse. De 7 livshendingene er for barn, alvorlig sykt barn, miste å finne jobb, ny i Norge, starte og drive en bedrift, dødsfall og arv, starte og drive frivillig organisasjon. Enkelte livshendinger kan innebære dramatiske omstillinger for deg og de rundt deg. La oss ta et eksempel som det å få et alvorlig sykt barn. Denne livshendingen dekker også barn og unge som har sammensette behov, og der barnet og de foresatte trenger koordinert hjelp og støtte fra helsevesenet, skole og andre deler av det offentlige. I en krevende livssituasjon er ikke det enkelt å ha oversikt over hvilke kontor og etater en skal kontakte, og i tillegg kan den faktiske oppfølgingen og hjelpen variere sterkt fra kommune til kommune og etat til etat. Foreldre i denne situasjonen opplever typisk å måtte oppgi de samme opplysningene gang på gang til stadig nye etater. Da skal de slippe. Målet er å gi et sømløst, persontilpasset og forutsigbart tilbud, slik at utfordringene i hverdagen blir enklere å håndtere, både for store og små. Dette er en av livshendingene som også har fått et eget brukerforum. Involvering av de det gjelder er helt nødvendig hvis vi skal lykkes med å finne gode løsninger. Ansvaret for å arbeide med livshendingene er lagt i 6 ulike departement. På nettsidene til Digitaliseringsdirektoratet finner du mer informasjon om hvordan arbeidet er organisert i departementer, direktorater, KS og i de enkelte involverte virksomhetene. Felles for alle er det viktig å utvikle godt samarbeid på tvers, ha brukeren i sentrum i alt arbeid, samle, dele og gjenbruke data på trygge måter. Dine data skal ikke komme på avveie. Ta i bruk fellesløsninger der det er mulig, og dele erfaringer og lære av egne og andre sine feil. For å støtte arbeidet med livshendingene jobber Digitaliseringsdirektoratet og KS i lag for å utvikle metoder og for å samle kunnskap om brukerorientering, organisering og hvordan en skal få til god utvikling og drift av sammenhengende tjenester på tvers. På nettsiden til Digitaliseringsdirektoratet finner du også handlingsplanen for arbeidet med hele strategien. Denne handlingsplanen inneholder en rekke innsatsområder og status for arbeidet med de 7 livshendingene. Her finner du mer informasjon om ressurser som det offentlige kan ta i bruk i digitaliseringsarbeidet, verktøykasser og samordningsfunksjoner som ressurssenteret for deling av data, datafabrikken og StartOff. Ved å ta utgangspunkt i livshendinga setter vi brukeren i sentrum. For vi som jobber i det offentlige og brenner for digitalisering, transformasjon, referansearkitekturer, digitale økosystem og andre flotte begrep, må aldri glemme hvem vi går på jobb for. En mor med et alvorlig sykt barn. Enka som mister mannen i sitt liv. Han som søker jobb, og hun som vil starte bedrift. Jobben med livshendingene handler om å gjøre hverdagen enklere og bedre for mennesker som vi er til for. Det handler ikke bare om å håndtere krevende livssituasjoner. Vi skal også la innbyggerne i alle deler av landet vårt få bruke kreftene på det som har verdi. Derfor skal vi også gjøre det lettere å starte og drive en bedrift eller en frivillig organisasjon. Teknologien bidrar til å gjøre ambisjonene våre mulige, men digitalisering er mer enn teknologi. Det er felles ambisjoner, det er deling av kunnskap, erfaringer og samarbeid til det beste for mennesker rundt oss. Digitalisering er derfor og i høyeste grad en lagsport. Ved å samle innsatsen om å realisere livshendingene er vi godt i gang.
Takk skal du ha, Petter. Fint.
Yes.
Thank you, Peter. This was 6 minutes in Norwegian. I'd like to ask for comments. If you should pick out 3 points, what's the main message here? What do you think was the most important messages from this short video?
To share the data between the agencies and always have the user in focus. Yeah. It was a nice video.
Yeah, is this something that you think is surprised you, or is it, yeah?
No, not really. I think it's a good strategy they have, but I think it's a big job. So I hope they manage to do it.
Good. Any other comments from other reflections from your other students? Thank you. Ida?
For the exchange student, we can say that the video was about interconnected services in the public sector.
Mm-hmm. One message I think is, they didn't mention this very clearly, but when I started working with IT, most top people didn't care, because it was something that the IT department did, and they fixed it down in the basement. And it's been very nice to working with it and more getting higher up in how to express it. It's like it's core for the business developing. It's a main thing that you do when I talk with leaders. They are starting to get more and more interested. And first it was just the IT people, then they got higher up in system, and today the ministries and also the prime minister is really interested in this. And part of what I have done the last 15 years is to establish communities for discussing this. So I've started two conferences, and the first years it was like 100 people. Next year was 200, and when it was 500, I realized I needed some professional help at this, and we filled Operan with 1,500 people, and that's a picture of how the top segment in the public sector are more and more interested in. And why is so? Because it's all about changing the whole public sector. And when you saw this film, you will see it focus on the daily life of the citizens. And it's not like it's in one sector, all sector. But please name me one sector that is not affected by digitalization. It's not possible anymore. That's when I asked how important is this? If you should grade it from 1 to 10, it should, in my view, come up very, very high because it affects all of us. Other comment, reflections? Should we take the other one, Peter? It's only 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. Let me see if this works.
Som barn lærte vi at å dele det vi har, er en god ting. En leke kan gi dobbelt så mye glede dersom den deles. Så ble vi voksne, og mange glemte hvor mye mer verdi det er i å dele, enn å holde noe for seg selv. Slik er også med informasjon, altså data. Jo mer du deler, jo mer verdi skapes fra de samme ressursene. Informasjon som deles kan skape mer effektive tjenester med færre steg. Et eksempel er å la brukernes informasjon følge med på tvers av offentlige tjenester. Men deling av data er så mye mer enn å la telefonnummeret følge med deg automatisk på nett. I hele Norge sitter offentlige og private aktører på store mengder data. Når disse sitter i hver sin silo, brukes de ikke optimalt. Tenk så raskt en byggesøknad kunne sendes inn om all informasjon ble hentet automatisk og presentert til deg. Minutter senere er søknaden behandlet og klar. Ved å åpne datakildene, forenkle regelverk for bruk, og sørge for at alle datakilder og brukere kan snakke sammen, kan nye og spennende tjenester skapes. Dataforedling kan du kanskje si. Fordeling av data gir også økt kvalitet på data. Hvilke tjenester kan komme frem av å dele data om strømforbruk, togreiser og vær? Hvilke arbeidsplasser vil bli laget, og hvilke vil forsvinne? Hva er den neste store forretningsideen som verden vil snakke om? Ikke vet vi, men noen der ute får kanskje en smart idé til hva som kan gjøres. Det vi vet er at potensialet på verdiskapning er enormt. Derfor ønsker vi åpne, sikre og lett tilgjengelige datakilder som gjør livet lettere og skaper verdi. Det gjør vi sammen for en enklere digital hverdag. Som barn lærte vi at å dele det vi har, er
Du er mutet, Jens.
Thank you. Part of the message here was the importance about the mindset we need in public sector to share and cooperate. And to be honest, it's that's a very, very hard part, because we have 400, or now it's 350 municipalities, and we have almost 1,000 different entities in public sectors, and they have money, that they get every year, and they have power to use it. And now it's a trend that we need to centralize this more. And centralize, I mean by doing things together, because we should keep using the whole Norway, and we can have facilities all over Norway. So it's not centralizing in that way, but we need to let people do different things and cooperate. And we have spent a lot of money on building up what we call felles fundament, common fundament, that is built on different solutions. And we have done that for 10 years, and we have spent millions of kroners. But that's just the start of it, because we need to build an infrastructure to make this happen, and that we haven't done that before. So in a way, it's like what we have done with electricity and with roads. Now we need to do that with IT, and it needs to be a part of the European system. So it's one of you comment that it's complex and a big job, and I quite agree. And I feel that just about every day. That it's kind of like is it possible? It's so complex, and we have never done it before. Comments? Okay, Peter, I don't know how you think to take it from here, but when we start to end of this part, it's I'm talking about the 30 years of development going from IT to digitalization to digital transformation. So that could be maybe to hand it over back to you.
Yeah, I think we will end this session now. I think in regards of the last video, I guess there's a lot of things to gain both in the private and public sector from sharing data and using data and utilizing data. That seems to be sort of where at least one huge potential is then, I guess. In terms of the practical part, I think we will have a break now, a lunch break. So we will have a break until 12:35. I can write it in the chat. We get some food and some rest. Then we can meet again at 12:35 approximately. That sounds good. See you then. Okay. So let's talk about digital transformation then. You have probably heard a lot of terms: digitizing, digital transformation. You have talked about digitalization, which is in the name of the course. So let's have a chat about these terms and how they are interconnected. And this is a private versus public sector perspective now. We will talk a lot about public sector in the rest of the course, of course, since it's what the whole course is about. But in the beginning now, we will draw a bit upon on the private sector as well, and the innovation that is going on in that field. And if you like to ask questions, just either use your microphone or the chat. Perhaps Jens can try and have a bit look on the chat on the way. So just let me know if there are anything you are wondering about. I will be happy to answer questions along the way. So this is a model that is adapted from this article you can see here, Vial, from 2019. And I will go through some of the steps here in this model. The point is that we use digital technologies which can create changes in the value that some kind of company is producing, and it might also create disruptions in the market, which again are triggering strategic responses, and then we need to find new ways of using digital technologies to address these changes. And they can also be influenced by human capital, structural changes, and organizational barriers, and generate positive and perhaps also negative effects. So why should we have this focus then? For a company, it's important to do this both strategically and politically. It's expected of companies because either it could be politically, like environmental policies and a collaboration with the public sector is requiring certain types of digital strategies. Or it could just be, of course, that they are in a competitive situation and they need to make sure that they can keep the customers and perhaps gain some new customers. So it's kind of a game where you are digitalizing or you're not. And if you're not, you are out of business, perhaps. Okay, so let's see. So these terms, what? There's a lot there. Digitizing, and you have digitalization, and then you have digital transformation. And just to start up in the beginning, I could say that these terms are not clearly defined in scientific literature. It's not like everyone has agreed upon them. So yeah, this is sort of an understanding of these terms, which I think for the first one, digitizing, many agree upon. So that's just purely going from the analog to the digital. So if you put electricity on the paper, then you are digitizing. So if you convert the paper document to a PDF, then you are digitizing. That's what you're doing. It could be nice to do that. For example, if you have forms in the public sector that were previously in a written format, if you create them into a PDF, preferably one where you can actually fill it out on the way, and then print it out, for example, at least they have made it a bit easier for the citizen. So that's an example of how you can digitize. If you want to do something more about this, you can digitalize. So, for example, in kindergartens, it's usually a form that you have to apply for a place in kindergarten for your child. And there are different ways of doing this. So before you had a written form and that kind of stuff. Now you can do it electronically. And what you see on the citizen side is that you fill in a form, which is very convenient for us. And when it's submitted, you can email that the application is received and that kind of stuff. And you know that you don't have to do anything else before you get the answer from the municipality. On the other hand, perhaps, maybe they have an intelligent system that organize this information, find out which one of the children are they obligated to give a place in kindergarten for, and that kind of stuff. So if they had this type of smart system behind, they could actually, the system can actually do a lot of this job for them. And this process could be finished in a short time. If that was the case, maybe the application date for a place in kindergarten could be moved closer to when they start in kindergarten, for example, closer to August, for example, where typically many of them are starting. So which would be a nice benefit for the citizens as well. Or the other way around, they could actually just get this information that the users have submitted, and then they could actually just print it out and sit there and work the same way as they did before. Except that they got their papers electronically this time. They didn't have to pick it up in the mail. That's the only, perhaps we can call it an improvement on the backside. So this is sort of a difference between digitizing and digitalization, where we actually improve the work processes, where we work smarter. And digital transformation is kind of taking it even further. So then we are entirely changing the way things are done. So we create new industries, for example, on the business side. There are disruptive innovations. There are things that are fundamentally just changing how things have been done. So maybe the sharing economy is a good example of digital transformation. The taxi market is completely changed by Uber. Perhaps to some extent, at least, the accommodation market is changed by Airbnb and that kind of stuff. So entirely new ways of conducting business, which we didn't think of before. Something that is facilitated through digital technologies. Okay, let's have a look into this value creation, what it is. How do a business create value? We can talk about value in the public sector as well. We will do that. How do the public sector create value? But let's now look at how the private sector is creating value. So there are 4 areas here, which we will have a look at. So first, we have this perceived customer value. And I have some examples here. So how can digital tools be used to actually create a better value for the customers? So for Netflix, for example, I mean, many of you are so young that you don't know this. Physical movies, that's how it was before. So if you wanted to watch a movie, you had to go to the movie store, and you rented a movie box, perhaps, if you didn't have a video machine at home. And if you did have a video machine, you anyhow had to rent a movie. You got a physical movie, which you brought back and watched it, and then you brought it back to the store afterwards. So that's really the old-fashioned way of doing this. Now we are, of course, streaming, so that's not unique to Netflix. But what they do is that they use data about how the viewers are watching the content, actually to create more content that the viewers want. So Netflix and also other streaming services are now actually creating their own content. I guess you have seen that on these services, that they have their own actually series, which they have themselves taken the initiative to and created. And many of them are, to my opinion, really good. So maybe it's working then, that they are actually able to use the data and create things that are according to what the viewers want. Philips Hue, maybe you know this. So instead of having this traditional way of turning on and off the lights, you can use it, for example, an app. to switch on and off the lights, to dim the lights, and to make sure that they are have the most optimal power consumption. You can adjust so that they are turning on the lights at certain times of point of the time of the day, that kind of stuff, which could have many advantages. KLM had this meet and seat, so they identified passengers with common interests and had a service so that you can sit together with other passengers that had the same type of interest. I haven't tried this out, but it would be really nice, I think, to to sit together with someone who is interested in the same thing as you. You can have a good chat about that. Then you have value networks where companies cooperate with other companies, so they both can benefit from this, or with the customers. So, for example, farmers who do not necessarily have to go through intermediaries to sell their products. Of course, grocery stores, grocery chains, they will have to take quite a lot of a big cut of the price that we are actually paying. So what the farmer is getting is far less. Now they could, for example, make sales from the farm directly instead of going through these intermediaries. All this is facilitated through technology, and I would say particularly the internet has plays a really important part of this. Ford, for example, they are using ICT to coordinate the delivery of parts to the factory. So when they are producing cars, certain type of car parts is arriving at the points where they are actually making, or when they are needed actually. So they don't have a lot of parts in a huge storage, which of course reduces the costs and perhaps also the environment. And these companies that are delivering parts to the factory, they are located really close by, so they have this sophisticated system for doing this. Yeah, more value networks. Some examples. eBay. I'm sure you will know about eBay. You have Amazon Mechanical Turk. I'm not sure if you are aware of this or heard about it. So this is a platform offering or taking on micro work, what we call it, micro work. So there are tasks that are usually small, and they can be done fairly quickly and cheap. So, for example, I used this actually for a survey when I made a research paper. I thought I would try to get the survey answered by people on Mechanical Turk, or M-Turk is also called. And I thought, okay, 140 replies would be good. And I put it out here, and I thought, yeah, how long should it be out there? So I put out 10 days. I thought that should hopefully be enough. And I think it took 10 minutes, and all 140 replies were actually in there. So it was really fast. There's a lot of people out there using this M-Turk for work. How much are they paid? It could be as little as $50 for completing a survey, $2, $3, perhaps. It's not that much. And of course, one could actually question whether the quality of the survey and the work is good when they are paid this little. It offers an opportunity for people in certain types of areas in the third world, perhaps, connecting with an international job market. So if you don't have work at home, you might, if you have a computer and internet connection, you can actually take on work from mTurk. And there are people on mTurk that do this for a living. That's this is their main business. This is what their job is, to complete tasks on mTurk. Okay. Co-creation of value. This is what Facebook does. So they use they are entirely dependent on us, on the users, entirely dependent on our content, that we are contributing content to the platform, because this is what creates value for Facebook. Yeah, we can use digital channels for social marketing. So there are, for example, people who are fans of certain types of products. So if they are able to create those fans, for example, blogs about Volvos, there are people who love these cars so much, so they are blogging about it, having pictures, videos, all kinds of discussions, and actually marketing the brand for Volvo. And this agile adaptation to the environment, this is an example from ATMs in the company, I think it's Nixdorf, Diebold, they're called, where they have maintenance services based on sensors in the ATMs. So they are constantly under surveillance for hints of errors. And if they are found, they can repair them automatically over the network, if possible, though. Not all errors may be repaired over the network, but if possible, they will do it. And they will do it, hopefully, before the error is secured. So the company is from Paderborn, that's good. Yes. Okay. So who are these guys? You know?
Charles Darwin and Karl Marx.
Yes, very good, Sindre. It is. It's Darwin and Marx. So it's evolution and revolution. That's what I'm hinting at here with having this. They are not so into technology, as far as I know. It could be actually, but not our type of technology. But my point is evolution and revolution. And much of the technology that we are actually presented for today are sold in as a revolution, but in reality, it's actually an evolution. So we might talk about digitizing, we might talk about digitalization, and especially digital transformation. But I think if we dig into it, both in the public sector and the private sector, if we dig into this, we would find out that much of what we do today is just an evolution of what we did yesterday. It's not necessarily revolutionary. It's more evolutionary. Okay, so an introduction to value creation in the private sector, mixing it with the public sector sometimes. But is this type of value creation possible in the public sector as well? I mean, it's a good inspiration. I think there are many things going on in the private sector which are smart, fun, and I can definitely see the value of it. But is this type of value creation possible in the public sector? What do you think? Someone who has some opinions? You can use the chat as well if you like. Can we be this innovative in the public sector?
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, there's a comment in the chat. Actually, I can bring that on. The public sector needs to stay relevant, and if it fails to create value, they might have a reduction in the satisfaction from the users. Yeah, I do agree with that. It might be a different value creation. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if all students enter private schools or all sick ones enter private facilities, it will affect the public service offerings. Yeah, I agree with that. But it's a kind of, it's definitely a different way of creating value, that's for sure. But I do think there might be some arenas and ways of creating value for citizens that we haven't thought of, because we are perhaps thinking in the same manner as we did before, perhaps. Now I'm speculating a bit because I don't know if this is the case, but there might be ways of doing things in the public sector that could create value for the citizens in ways that we haven't thought of before. Some of you might have heard this before, but we had this speeding lottery in Stockholm, which was an experiment some while ago, and where they wanted to reduce the speed on some type of road in Stockholm, and it was a gamification project. So what they did, they had this speeding lottery. So everyone who kept the speed limit, they were participating in this lottery, and they could win money if they were drawn out of this. And how did they finance this, do you think? Well, through money of those who didn't keep the speed limit. so it's a good way of doing it. And what happened? Well, the number of cars who kept the speed limit increased, and the number who did not were decreasing. So people obviously thought this was a fun, entirely different way of doing things in the public sector. Maybe a bit on the side, but still, yeah, something that is quite innovative for the public sector. Okay, let's put on. I'll go further. So, how is this value creation affected, or what affects this value creation in the company? And I mean, even though we say that the private sector is different from the public sector, yes, of course it is. It's definitely different. But there are also similarities, and you will find out in terms of digitalization and digital transformation. Many of the things they say in the private sector, these are issues that we struggle with, and so on. You will find them in the public sector as well. People have to coordinate. People have to have a mindset that they want to actually digitalize instead of resisting changes and that kind of stuff. And many of these things are the same in the public sector as in the private sector. So the human being is one of the things that are affecting value creation, and technology has done a lot for us, but still humans are the most valuable asset in the company. So it's not all about technology. It's not all about how you utilize data and utilize technology. It's also about the people who are there, who have ideas, who are using this technology to achieve certain type of aims. So it's not like we have eliminated ourselves. The human is still an important part. Structural changes. So these are challenges and or issues that are highly relevant, I would say, for the public sector as well. So in order to have a digital transformation, you need to collaborate across departments and silos. And as Jens said, so they used to work for themselves before. So every agency or entity in the public sector, they work for themselves, creating a lot of systems and sub-optimizing the tasks that each had, instead of collaborating across departments, across agencies, across these silos. This is the same things that is going on in the private sector as well. Maybe one should have a specific unit that has a responsibility for digital transformation. Organizational culture is needed. So if you want to move forward with digital transformation, we need to take risks, experiment. We need to have a culture in the company that is actually desiring to make these changes and to innovate. And one company that is known to be very innovative is Google. What they do now, I'm not sure of, but before it's told that 20% of the work time the employees could spend this time to think about new services, new things that actually Google could create and could offer customers. So not sure if they do that anymore. Leadership, perhaps have a digital officer working as a bridge builder between departments and between different people who have certain types of responsibilities. Organizational barriers for digital transformation. Perhaps we have established relationships with suppliers and customers that are difficult to change, difficult to optimize. There might be a resistance to change among employees. This is a very known challenge, so it's very common. People are perhaps tired of innovation fatigue, we might call it. Lack of utility, they don't know how to do it. Involvement, they want to jump into something that has just been pushed upon them. If they are not involved early, they will likely resist. It might end up in additional work for employees. So instead of making things simpler, they might, at least for a period, have more to do because technology gives them double work to some extent. And they might also find out that they lose power and control because of the way processes are now changed of technology. And working in, I worked in Scandinavian Airlines before, and I remember there was a lot of employees there, older than me, older than I'm now as well, and they were really tired of new systems and new ways of doing it, and they thought we had new systems all the time. It was changing constantly. Every other year or every third year or something, was something new, and they were really tired of this, I remember. And to a certain point, I can understand. I mean, when you get older, you get tired of adapting to new technology. You have learned something, you have found out that this is working really well, and then something new is coming. And that's also a challenge for, perhaps for the public sector, with all the people who might not have a computer, and if they do have, they have perhaps learned how to do things, and then maybe are changing something. Yeah, it might be something that the citizens will, or some of them, resist. Okay, so now we have talked a bit about how value is created and can be created in a private sector. We have talked about what can influence this value creation. So let's talk a bit about the effects of this digital transformation. And it can affect performance and efficiency in many different ways, as you can see here. Typically, it's when we talk about performance, it's typically quality. I mean, the quality of a service or product, and efficiency is how fast we can do this, and perhaps how cost efficient we can do this. So these are important positive effects. And we could also improve both societies and industries by providing new industry standards. Maybe it's better for the environment, or you could actually provide job opportunities for more people than we do today. Negative effects, ethical issues, unintended effects. So e-commerce, for example, was thought of a really good thing. It might be a good thing still, but the point is that they thought that, okay, now with e-commerce, using the internet to provide services and or products, we can actually engage a larger part of the world. So we could have thousands of suppliers competing in a huge international market. People in third world countries might sell their products or services in places where they wouldn't get a job elsewhere, but now they can actually connect to the international market. But instead, what we see is that at least the retail market is dominated by giants. I think it's 75 or 80% of the retail market is dominated by these top 500 Fortune companies. So it hasn't necessarily gone the same direction that we predicted or hoped for. Job rights, for example, M-Turk, or we could include Uber, for example. What kind of rights do these workers have? Loss of control could be a thing. I mean, if you, for example, if you have these fans of products or companies, you don't necessarily know what they are doing on their blogs and stuff to promote your company necessarily. It could be that they are not all aspects of it is good. So it could be some type of loss of control. And since data is an important part of the business model, security and privacy is also very important, which I would say also is important for the public sector. I mean, creating seamless services, connecting different types of agencies. Data is a necessary prerequisite for doing that. And I think you said something about that, Jens, that is a premise for perhaps Lånekassen and maybe especially tax administration, that they're actually able to get all this data.
Yeah, and if you look at public sector as a whole, it's very few that has more data than we do. We know where you live, what you earn, what you're studying. We know everything about you. So of course, to be trusted, we need to, and we want to share this data. We need to take care of all the things you're mentioning here, privacy, security, and everything. That's one of the biggest challenges for us, actually. Thanks.
Yeah. Yes. Moving to the end of this presentation. So is digital transformation something new? Well, the idea that a company must think differently, this also applies to the public sector. That a public agency or some public entity must think differently to achieve growth or to improve services. This is not new. I mean, it has been there as long as we actually started using technology. So, and I mean technology in the broader sense, not only information and communications technology, but other types of technology as well. But if you focus on ICT and which we do in this course. Since we have computers in companies, they have been thinking about how can they use this to be more innovative, attract customers, work smarter. This is an important part of it. Maybe not in the scale that we see today. That might be the case, but they have always think about this. And I would say to a certain point also, this is where Jens has the expertise, but the public sector also has tried to utilize technology to improve their services all the way. But maybe the way they do it today is different. So changing things and trying to improve, that's nothing new. But perhaps where digital transformation is a bigger step, is where they are actually able to influence outside the corporate value network, for example, society, and question existing business models where they are actually just doing things in entirely different ways that we are doing things today. So to summarize, the business community is continuing to use technology to various goals, and it will do in the future as well. Digital transformation and change is necessary for many companies to remain competitive. And I guess the challenge for businesses and also the public sector is to spot the opportunities that these digital technologies give us, what they can provide us for customers and for citizens, and actually make use of them. That might be a huge challenge there. So a lot of literature here if you are interested. And this is the end of this presentation. And I think I've been going on for quite a while now, so it would be nice to have a break, I think. Should we have 10 minutes break, Jens?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And then I will follow up. And what you have presented for private sector, I will try to present from public sector. And the big question then, because it's huge possibilities, but also a lot of, it's not easy to do, as one of you said. So the big question then is, do we have a plan? And yes, we have a plan. That's what I'll be talking about.
Yeah. Yes, let's have a break and be back in 10 minutes. So that's 9 minutes.